Hey everyone, and welcome to week 6 of class. Hey, this week we are going to be diving into perhaps one of the more interesting and climactic decades of U.S. history. Remembered perhaps only second to the decade of the 1950s, although I would argue that in many ways the 1920s, which is what we're going to be looking at, rivals that time. But this is a time that it's a very exciting time. It's referred to as the Roaring Twenties, or the Ballyhoo years, or the Jazz Age. And often when we think of the 1920s, we think of things like flappers who are, going out in social engagements and speakeasies, and they're drinking bootleg gin and rum. And, this is a time of sexual liberation and freedom, and a time in which traditional Victorian norms are definitely being challenged by modernity. And, this is a time in which the United States is engaged in economic productivity, and people are just having a fun time. And in many ways, the mantra of the era for a lot of folks, not everybody, but for a lot of folks was, you could be dead tomorrow, so live it up today. And a lot of that mentality was shaped by the horrors of World War I. And indeed, World War I radically shaped 1920s America. But there's another side to the 1920s, a side that doesn't get addressed as often, and that's really where the lecture is going to be focusing this week, and that's a side on what we call nativism. During the 1920s, there was a great increase in nativism, and I'll be defining what that is in the lecture. But you're going to see the reemergence of the Ku Klux Klan during this period. You're going to see a move against immigrants during this period. In fact, the United States established in 1924 an Immigration Act which curtailed immigration from quote-unquote somewhat undesirable locations. And we'll be talking briefly about that as your textbook does as well. So we're going to be looking at both sides of those stories, spending a little bit more time on the nativism side. Got some films for you to watch as well. But that's kind of where we're heading into this week. As far as the upcoming weeks go, especially next week, you're looking at a midterm exam. And I know it's a little early for a midterm, but this is where it fit well. And the midterm will basically be a multiple choice exam that's about 80 questions, and you'll have, I think it's 95 minutes to accomplish that. And basically that will cover everything from like early immigration all the way up to the 1920s and the content for this week. So that's what's coming up next week. But as far as this week goes, of course, you have your discussion board. And the only other thing that I want to just keep you in mind about, and you can see the directions for this in your syllabus, is the fact that you do have a PowerPoint assignment coming up, and you want to be thinking about that because it's coming up in the next couple weeks and it will be due. So look at those directions. I'll be speaking to that a little bit more next week in the video, so give you more concrete descriptions of what it is I'm looking for there, but just be mindful of that. So, all right, guys, that's pretty much what I have for you this week. If you have questions, let me know. I'll get back to you. Otherwise, as always, go in peace. Be warm and filled. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper, and may the odds forever be in your favor. Have a blessed week, guys.